Oh, we're on the air.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. This is Trish McCallan with the Self-Publishing Roundtable, and our guest this evening is going to be Heidi Tretheway. She has some very interesting experiences and some experiments we kind of wanted to share with our viewers. We apologize for going late today. Adam isn't with us. He's on vacation, and he is kind of like our technological guru. And so we ran into some problems when he left, even though he left some, very specific instructions for us. I still managed to screw it up. So we're running late today because of that. Not Adam's fault, totally my fault, but at least we got going now. I'd like to introduce Heidi. She's someone that I met when I first started self-publishing somewhere around 3 years ago, so I've known her for quite a while. Heidi, if you could kind of give our audience kind of like a little nutshell introduction of your publishing journey, what you write, when you came into this for
Sure.
us.
In a nutshell, I've kind of sidled into self-publishing from the standpoint that each book has let me get my feet a little bit wetter. I started with a little children's book called A Handful of Gold, which was entirely self-published just as a gift for my daughter and shared with close friends as Christmas gifts. But unfortunately, it turns out to be an addiction. So then the next thing I published was a chick lit novel that had been an idea that took me probably 8 years to write. And it published. And then I had a new idea before I had published the chick lit novel, and it was in the new adult category, and I got really excited about that. And so that's really where I started to work out the kinks in my writing. I went from taking 8 years to write a book to taking 45 days to write it and 45 more to edit it. So since last October 2013, I've published 3 new adult titles. And now I'm gearing up, getting ready to publish 4 collections as a publisher. And then also I have another adult erotic book that's coming out in January. So it's very different each time.
Could you kind of take us a little bit through your craft process? You said that you started out writing, a book every 8 years, and now you're writing a book basically every 45 days. So what did you do to kind of streamline your process?
Sure. Part of it is just commitment, right? Every time you put your butt in a chair, you're going to be able to write more and faster as compared to if you're just kind of picking away at it as a hobby. So I'd say that I got serious about writing around June 2013, where I basically gave up television. My husband will also tell you I gave up doing dishes and laundry, but I basically just focused on writing as compact of or compacting as much writing as possible into a short space of time. So that means writing every single night, typically writing 2, 3, 4,000 words a night, often binge writing on the weekends, which could be a 10,000 word day. My best ever was a 16,000 word day. I write a little bit messy, but it's not too bad. I mean, I don't seriously fast draft. I know people can write a book in 12 days. For me, it really takes the 45 or at least 30 because I need those off days. I need those days where I can just crash at 8:30 p.m. with my little kids. And in terms of craft and development as well, that first draft, which is very lightly edited, just reread, is that 45 days, and then I ship it off to a developmental editor who tends to write me back about a 10-page memo, problems with story and character and plot and conflict, and I sit down with a glass of wine and I read it and I cry, and then after about a week or two I pick myself back up and I spend another like 30 days editing it, and that's where I usually add 10 or 20,000 more words.
So, are you focusing mostly then on the young adult novels? How long do those run?
Oh, I don't write any young adult whatsoever.
The new adult, I
Only
meant,
new adult.
right.
Yes, no worries. So my last three books that I've published have been new adult titles. They run. My first draft is north of 60,000 words, usually around 65, and then they're actually published at around 75, 78,000 words. So they're not hugely long novels.
Okay, so you take 45 days basically to write the book, and then it goes off to the developmental editor, and then you do revisions on it. Could you kind of take us through your process after your revisions? Does it go to beta readers? And then after that to copy editors? Do you use professionals like cover artists, that type of stuff?
Oh yes, I have a very, very excellent team around me. So after I get it back from my developmental editor, I spend about 30 days revising it. Then it typically goes to a line editor and beta readers, and the beta reader thing for me, I'm still working out because sometimes I'm sending off my first draft to beta readers, and yet they're not just like, you know, Julie who likes to read books. They're maybe book bloggers, reviewers, folks who are part of my really close, trusted circle of friends, but also who really know a lot in our genre, really know a lot about books. And then I tend to get varying degrees of input from them. After line edits, I make one last pass. I kind of give things the sniff test, and it goes to a copy editor. My copy editor is insane. She sends back 400 changes at a minimum. I've never met anyone pickier or more valuable than her. And then once I've done that, gone through the process of all of her copy edits, then I also print and bind it and give it to a lay proofreader who is just a regular reader, but who tends to catch maybe 20 more errors. I have a habit of writing them as that, and I also have a habit of skipping words, particularly in the steamy scenes. So she finds those. Then I also work often with a professional cover graphic designer for my covers. And that varies by book. I do have some graphic design skills myself, so I kind of set a graphic identity for a series and then tend to follow that. So a large part of my second and third books in my series were just a matter of finding the right look to the photo and then bringing that into the established graphic design. And then I work with a blog tour coordinator as well for launch. So it's like 6 different people that the book goes to between my writing and actually your reading.
Now, you've said that your next book is going to be a market-driven book. So what do you particularly mean by that? And what do you see as kind of emerging in popularity? Why did you decide to write that particular book?
I would love to tell you about that. Trish, I have a computer that's freezing right now. Give me just 1 second. I'll be right back to you.
Okay.
Lindsay can chat.
Well, isn't that you lost your cat?
All sorts of computer difficulties today.
Yeah,
now,
well,
I will kind of mention a milestone for me. I self-published Forged in Fire 3 years ago last September, and then sold the whole series to Montlake Romance. So I really haven't had an indie title out, with the exception of this novella that I have in a box set. And I actually self-published my first book since Fire. It's up on pre-order right now, which was really nice. Anyway, welcome back, Heidi. And
Thank you for that. So you had asked me about a market-driven book, which is my next book. And I have had a lot of conversations with indie authors who talk about, well, you know, this is my craft, and so I'm not going to let market forces sully it. I'm going to write exactly the book that I want to write. And damn the market, you know, it'll be so good that everyone will want it anyway. And while I absolutely respect that, I also want to sell books. I want this to be my profession. And there are a lot of stories in my brain, some of which would sell better than others. So I felt like what I needed to do was to take a step back, to look at the market and really think about it, and pick the story idea that was burning in my brain, but that was also quite marketable. So I actually use television and movies as a really good gauge of kind of where popular culture is going. I am seeing Scandal. I'm seeing Madam Secretary, Homeland, House of Cards, a lot of political drama. I'm seeing really sexy stuff coming out. I mean, we have 50 Shades of Grey coming out on the 13th of February, and I'm seeing only a greater spike in interest in books from that more erotic side. So give me political, give me erotic, and I am a happy camper. And so the premise for my next book, The Phoenix Candidate, is really growing out of this idea of my developmental editor asking me, well, what do you going to be hotter than new adult? At least for me, I think it's going to be that way. I think erotic and just the trend toward sexier books, I think that's going to be true. And I also think there's going to be renewed interest in political storylines that we've seen billionaires done over and over and over again. And maybe kind of stepping to the side of hot alpha is a hot political leader who can kind of own the moment and boss some people around.
Okay, that sounds quite interesting. How far out do you think before that book will be available?
It'll be available January 15th. So it's,
do you have it up on pre-order?
Not yet. I'm working that direction. I hate to jinx myself, so I never set a release date until a first draft is due and delivered, or is delivered to my editor, and I don't set a pre-order until the second draft is delivered. By that point, I have all of the other professionals who are involved in the book production already engaged and booked, and I usually book a cushion between them to make sure if somebody is late in delivering, it doesn't throw the rest of the schedule off. So I would suspect that I would have a pre-order available in about 3 weeks.
So do you have any interest in writing novellas? One of the things that's been coming out is that with Kindle Unlimited, novellas are really kind of taking off. Shorter work is doing really well.
Yeah, I have seen a lot of people writing novellas. I haven't yet. Part of it is, I think, just the story that comes into my brain needs to be a certain length, and for me that has been the closer to novel length. If I had the right story that could be tidily packaged as a novella, I would absolutely write that. I do think that some readers have a challenge about spending more than 99 cents on a novella, and I see some that they're successful at $2.99, but I also see some readers complaining about $2.99, and I think that part of my ability as an indie author to capture new readers is to be able to set my price point lower than a traditional publisher, and so that's kind of a reason why I might not be as excited to write novellas.
Right, but keep in mind that with Kindle Unlimited, they can borrow as many novellas as they want for basically $9.99 a month, which is why readers are really kind of going for that and why novellas are doing so well in Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah.
I'm going to hand you over to Lindsay now. She got all sorts of marketing questions and stuff for you.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Lindsay.
Hey there, Heidi. Yeah, somebody gave me a whole bunch of really good questions to ask today, so I didn't even have to think of that many up by myself. It's awesome. But I know you're really excited to talk about the bundle. You've done one, and you put together one of your own, or I guess 4 of your own, it sounds like. I'd love to ask you a couple questions about your new adult stuff, what you did for marketing before we jump in there.
Sure.
You've got great reviews, and looks like you've sold quite a few books. So what was your strategy going into that?
Oh, I wish I could tell you I had a really good strategy going into it, but with each book I've learned so much more. For example, my first blog tour for my chick lit book, total disaster, didn't know what I was doing. My second blog tour, which got oversubscribed, extended a couple weeks, which launched the Tattoo Thief series, that was phenomenal, but it also chewed me up and spit me out as a writer in terms of all that it required of me. Blog interviews and character interviews, and there were so many things to prepare for it. It took me probably 30 days of just working on building assets for the blog tour. So you could say on the one hand that that was really successful, but then I repeated that again with books 2 and books 3, and in each instance I found that the blog tour was less and less successful. As I'm going into working on this collection, we're finding that really you're addressing 3 different places where readers discover books. One is social, one is through blogs, and one is through advertising. And so we're addressing each of those legs of the stool equally, and I intend to do that with my next book.
I guess when I mute myself, I should also unmute myself.
Okay.
Well, that's great that you had some good luck with the blog tours. I did one of my own when I first got started about 3 years ago, and I remember I got some reviews out of it, but not a lot of book sales. But I write fantasy. Do you feel like New Adult is different? Is it really kind of a lot of blogs covering it and a lot of people reading those blogs?
Well, I mean, we recently had a discussion on a very large Facebook group called New Adult Authors Unite about whether blog tours are increasing in their popularity and importance or decreasing. And the sense that I'm getting from a lot of authors is that the value of blog tours is decreasing because there are so many posts on any given day, it's becoming like noise. So I honestly couldn't speak to compare and contrast between New Adult and fantasy, for example, because really my entire focus has been in either the New Adult or adult romance category, and that's really that's my area of expertise. What I can say is that it feels like blogs are increasingly less valuable to launch a book. However, the folks that I'm seeing launch really well, they still do have a really big blog following. I spoke with a New York Times bestselling author who's one of the authors in my collection. She has 250 bloggers that she reaches out to with each of her launches. And so, you know, maybe I'm seeing a decrease and hearing from other authors that there's a decrease in blog tour value for them. Nevertheless, some of the New York Times authors that I'm talking to are telling me that they're keeping it up. So I wish I had a better, more authoritative answer for you, but the truth is, I mean, this thing changes so fast. What was working 12 months ago in marketing just isn't anymore.
Yeah, sure. I totally understand that. And stick with New Adult. I think you can sell a lot more books than with fantasy, so don't be tempted to change. But yeah, we were wondering also if do you like put together a street team and give out advanced review copies, anything like that?
I give out advanced review copies like candy to reviewers. I particularly like to give them to people who have already either read and reviewed other books, or who, like, I'll give out an arc to everybody who signs up for the release day blitz for the blog, even if that's a lot of people. On the flip side, I'm really stingy about giving out arcs after the fact, after the book has launched. And then you were asking me about street teams. I don't have one, and honestly, I just cannot put together the time and effort to really, I think, facilitate one as well as I could. I do build a mailing list. I don't, and that was actually advice from Trish years ago. First thing you told me, Trish, was get your mailing list going. So I do have a mailing list. I rarely mail to folks, mostly because I don't want to bug them. I'm only going to let them know like when there is a new release. So I don't have like a regular monthly cadence.
Well, it seems like what you're doing so far is working pretty well for you. You're only about a year into this, it sounds like, and doing great. Would you like to tell us a bit about, I guess your first box set that you were in was called Up All Night, is that right? And
yeah.
How did that affect you? Did that help you with sales, or what was your experience there?
Yeah, so that one was an amazing experience. It was put together by another author in New Adult Authors Unite, and she kind of had a line into iBooks that was going to do a promotion, and so she wanted to put together a box set very rapidly. So it was all new adult authors. We all contributed different elements of what we were capable of doing, whether it was a cover or a title or a blurb or advertising, marketing, formatting, you name it. We all just kind of threw our skills in a pot, and we also contributed $30 each to an advertising kitty, which isn't much, but certainly helped us along. And then we only sold the book for 6 weeks. It just ended at the end of October. But what that did, there was somewhere north of I think 12,000 sales on that box set, and we hit a publisher's weekly list, and I think that was off the strength of our iBook sales. But what I found was the most exciting was it totally changed my sales mix in iBooks. And I'm seeing a tremendous amount of iBook sales where before I was maybe at 8% of my total sales were in iBooks. Last month, the last 2 months, almost 50% of my sales were on iBooks. It was just a really huge boost there. What that informed me in terms of my author strategy going forward, the box set really worked for me. I think free might work even better, and so I am on a trajectory to put the first book in my series, Tattoo Thief, on perma-free probably within the next couple of months, because the sell-through rate for my second and third book are really phenomenal. Like a good example of that is in the last 2 months, maybe 10% of my sales were for Tattoo Thief, and keeping in mind Tattoo Thief was the one that was in the box set, so people could have gotten it free. So 10%, right, to Tattoo Thief. 47% of my sales in the last 2 months were for Tyler and Stella, which is the second book in the series, and then 40% were for Revenge Bound, third book in the series. So what that tells me is I have good sell-through in subsequent books, and that's why I'm looking toward perma-free.
That sounds like it really was a helpful, or not anthology, box set for you. You said you guys each put in about $30 for advertising. Did you do anything special to, there's so many places where you can advertise on Amazon. Yeah. It sounds like iTunes, you were invited to that bundle thing that was kind of going on there for a while.
They were doing some promotion of bundles, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Any luck with Barnes & Noble and Kobo? Are you a fan of the other platforms now?
Well, it's hard to be a fan of a platform that doesn't sell a lot of your books. So it's also hard to be a fan of a platform that is hard to work with. I have found Kobo to be very easy to work with. I'm not going to speak to the ones that are not as easy to work with, but I really do appreciate it when, I will say, for example, I was having trouble with one retailer. Another retailer I was also reaching out to got back to me 3 times on a Sunday evening, and so I should totally drop their name. That was iBooks, and it was an iBooks rep who went back and forth with me 3 times on a Sunday evening, and for me that was just unreal customer service. I haven't found the upload process to be the easiest there, but man, that customer service, I'm a fan for life. Whereas early in my publishing journey, I was kind of scared of dealing with all of the different publishing platforms because some of them can be fairly obtuse.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
So it probably goes without saying that you're not doing Kindle Unlimited right now, or do you have any thoughts on that maybe in the future, or are you like just really going to ride the iBooks wave and stay out there in all the venues?
So my lifetime stats show me that 83% of my sales are on Amazon. And part of that was because I actually did KDP Select for the first 3 months of my release of Tattoo Thief, so October, November, December. I'm not convinced that I would have sold 2 or 3 times more books had I been on more platforms than Kindle. But that said, I feel strongly that I don't want to limit myself to only one retailer. I definitely get some not fan mail when I don't have books beyond Kindle. And so I think for me right now, I'm going to test drive taking my chick lit novel and putting that in Kindle Unlimited just to see if that's a positive, but that'll be my one book experiment. I would not do that with the rest of my series, and certainly not with the collections.
Uh-oh, we got some up here. Are you with us, Heidi?
I am. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yep, we got you there.
Okay.
You gotta love it when the screen and it's like a close-up of your lips. Not to make you self-conscious or anything. That totally didn't happen.
That makes me totally self-conscious.
It didn't happen. I'm just making it up.
Okay, good.
So have you tried on your own any big the sites like BookBub or any of the other places, and what was your experience with that if you did?
Oh, you know what? I have sent love notes to BookBub a few times, and they've sent not love notes back. I'm up to over 80 reviews on Tattoo Thief, and I'll try again. But honestly, what happened for me and what went really, really well is when the Twitter bots picked up my sale on Tattoo Thief. I'm pretty stingy about sales on my books. I've never put Tyler and Stella or Revenge Bound on sale, and I probably never will, but I have experimented all over the place with Tattoo Thief. I've put it on 99 cents 2 different times. Both times sold practically 1,000 copies, and both times were entirely driven either by Facebook ads, which was for the first one. I did a Facebook ad that was extremely successful, and by the way, my Facebook ad that targeted the UK, that included a UK price and some UK spelling in my post, that was the most successful in terms of pay-per-click or price per click. And then in February, the Twitter bots picked it up, and that really shot it up higher than actually it had ever been before.
Wow, that's awesome. I think most people, when we ask them what they think about Facebook advertising, they say, you know, you can spend a lot and not get much of a return for your money. Was that you were doing not boosted posts, but actually running their pay-per-click ad campaign?
So I've run pay-per-clicks and I've run boosted posts, and I found that boosted posts for the 99 cents book work a lot better than a pay-per-click for a full-price book. And the reason is because the boosted posts, you are trying to access a total audience number of impressions, and so for me, it's you know, I can't pay 22 cents for a pay-per-click ad and only make 35 cents on a 99-cent book, unless I am seriously just trying to game the system and you know, boost my numbers artificially, I guess, through Amazon. It's a losing proposition in terms of pricing. So I will only pay to really boost posts as opposed to pay-per-click advertising now. But hey, I experimented with it. I tried it several times.
Yeah, I keep trying it like every year or two. I'm like, well, let's just see if things have changed. And the only thing that changes is it gets more expensive. Like, oh, 83 cents a click for, yeah, a book you're trying to sell for 99 cents. Sure.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, so how many people do you have on your Facebook page, and have you how have you built that up?
I have about 2,000 Facebook fans. I have seen a few times where I've gotten about a big spike of people liking my page when I wasn't doing anything. I didn't have a new book out, didn't have a ad running or anything like that. I've never paid to simply get likes on the page. Like, I've never done a sponsored page. And I have run Rafflecopter contests in the past during releases, where I am generally only offering something that I think that a reader fan would value, like, hey, get the bracelet that's like the main characters from the book, and you know, I'm not offering either the book or like a Kindle Fire, because I just don't feel like that attracts contesters more than it attracts fans. So so yeah, I know Rafflecopter is doing away with that element on Facebook, the ability to, you know, like a page to add to your Rafflecopter entry. So honestly, considering Facebook shows my posts to fewer and fewer people, it's just not an important channel for me anymore, and I'm looking elsewhere. And we'll see.
Interesting. It sounds like you've done pretty well, though, on doing the boosted posts. I've also found those far more effective than the pay-per-click advertising.
Yeah.
So do you think that you'll continue to use Facebook in so far as the boosted posts, and are those kind of existing fans, you think, that go ahead and pick up the 99-cent the deals, or they just share it with friends?
Well, I'm seeing like fans that I know and who engage with me regularly, like and share posts about a 99-cent sale. But I feel like an author fan page is less and less valuable to me because Facebook isn't willing to show my posts to all the people who like my page. And so that's why I feel like it's even more important now to build your newsletter following. For me, actually, the best thing about Facebook has been author relationships. It's how I found both of my critique partners. It's how I found out about the box set that I just did and how I was able to get involved in that. And it's also how we've been able to network with other authors to launch this collection. So for me, Facebook, 99% of the support of Facebook to my writing has really been as a networking tool, more so than as a straight promotional tool.
All right, well, cool. Thanks for answering the social media questions there. I know you're excited to talk about your new project, and I want to hear about it too. I'm going to hand you back over to Trish to ask the questions in that area.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Lindsay.
Just for a little bit of backstory, I guess, here is Heidi had actually emailed me asking if I was interested in putting one of my love scenes in this anthology. And at that time, I thought it was really quite brilliant. I've never heard of another anthology that is basically just a collection of love scenes. And considering how the romance market kind of thrives on these hot, sexy scenes, I could see where something like this could do remarkably well. And the first book, when it went up for pre-order, the first collection actually hit number what was it, 171 in the store, Heidi?
117. It was really cool.
So now, what made you think of this collection? It's kind of like indie. I consider it kind of like indie ingenuity. It's something that you would think somebody would have thought of before, with the with all these box set out there and how well they've done for people. But I don't think anyone else has come up with this.
Well, I was looking at it from the standpoint of I was looking in the erotica section because a friend of mine who has a secret erotica writing pin name, and I have been going back and forth about how important it was to me that she launched these stories that had gotten me all excited. And so I was looking at some example stories in just like looking on the Amazon store in erotica, and I noticed that there were a few short story collections in erotica that were selling for $2.99, $3.99, $4.99, and it was $4.99 for like 40,000 words, and they were short stories. And I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. This is a crazy price point. But not only that, with no disrespect to those fantastic erotica writers who spend a lot of time, money, energy, and editing to make their stuff sing, I also see a lot of bad stuff out there that's poorly edited and has the ugliest covers imaginable. And so I thought to myself, well, you know what? Some of my romance writing friends write scenes that are every bit as hot as these erotica writers, that are, every bit as swoon-worthy, and frankly, that ought to be able to command this really nice price point, that's like $4.99. And so this idea of skip to the good part, 20 authors reveal their steamiest scenes, was born. It knocked around in my head for like a month, but then I told it to my close friend, critique partner, Catherine Ernst, and she was just immediately like, stop the presses. This is it. This is the idea. We have to do this right now. And so I had formed Jasper Ridge Press as my personal imprint to be able to publish my own books. But immediately Catherine took it and ran with it, and the two of us built the website, the business, the infrastructure. She's a corporate attorney. My day job is corporate marketing, and so between the two of us, we had that kind of backbone and skill set to be able to launch a publisher and actually do this in a real way, rather than the kind of hodgepodge, death by committee box set that we had previously been involved in.
So now you had some pretty good sized names in this first edition that's out there. like Carly Phillips is in it, who's a really big-time romance author.
Yes, she is.
What made you decide to reach out to some of these bigger names? Did it give you pause? Did it make you nervous?
You know what? Honestly, I can't remember if I reached out to Carly or if she reached out to us. We're seeing more and more often that folks are coming to us, and they are big deal authors, and we didn't know them already. So I can't honestly tell you if I reached out to her, but another big author in the collection, Kay Bromberg, I was just a big fan of hers, and so I asked her to be part of it, and she thought about it, and she said, yeah, I'm in. Another really great contact for me was Inkslinger, which does a lot of PR for new adult and some adult authors, and they run my blog tours. And so I reached out to their owner, who I'd met a year and a half ago at BEA, and she posted it to their authors, and their publicists recommended that their authors get involved in the collection. Because the key thing is, it's not a traditional box set. I'm not asking author any money for any contribution to the advertising. Katie and I entirely are self-funding the advertising, promotion, production, design, the whole schmear, and we are offering to pay the authors royalties, up to 4% in some cases. And so that really was kind of a win-win for the authors, that they have no risk. They're giving us non-exclusive rights only for 3 months, and then they get a royalty out of the end of the deal.
So now, so then how did you guys decide on the cover for this? Because it does have quite kind of a erotica feel to the cover. Is that where the cover idea came from?
You know, the cover was developed kind of later in the process. We already had November and December's authors locked and loaded before we finalized the cover. We had several, maybe a dozen images that we'd chosen as a top images that we liked the most, and we wanted to give it a flavor of the fact that you were getting into love scenes only. So it was really important not just to have like a sexy man chest, which I do have on my couple of my new adult books, but we really wanted to show a love scene or a connection between male and female. And although there are some additional works that might have male, female, male, or other kind of gender combinations, most of them were male, female love stories.
Okay, so but this is open to male on male. Is it open? It's basically open to almost everything, isn't it, within the box or within your collections?
Yes, we are not accepting minors, raptor porn, not for us, but definitely kind of it runs the gamut in new adult and adult steamy and erotic romance. And we do have some male voices coming in future collections.
Okay, so now what kind of word counts are you looking for in these?
It's 2,000 to 5,000 words as a word count, and what we've found to be really successful is when the scene gives you not only the mechanics of what's happening between the characters, but really gives you some of that anticipation, that sexual tension, that build-up, and then also really successful scenes in the collection leave me wondering and wanting more. That's not to say they fade to black. They do not. You get your climax, but there's something that happens in that climax or after that climax that leaves you wondering, and I'm thinking particularly of Alessandra Thomas's, oh man, I can't say her last name, Alessandra Thomas's book that, I mean, or her excerpt in our November collection has such a great arc, but then it leaves me waiting, wondering, wanting more, and I remember writing in my edit notes to my partner, Catherine, oh yes, I need to one-click this book because I need to know what happens with these characters.
Now, there's obviously been a huge response, both from the readers and the writers for this collection. You originally were just planning one edition, isn't that correct? But how many do you got in the work now?
Yes, we were only planning one collection, but it has really taken off beyond our wildest imagination. When Katie and I really got together and said, all right, how are we going to do this? The main thing that we wanted was quality, and that we were willing to, you know, either abandon ship or walk away or not do it if we couldn't get the kind of quality that we wanted. But then when we got deluged with oh man, it was like 50 or 60 in the first week of even having the submissions open, and the submissions were open for almost a month. Then it was apparent that we needed to go to 2 collections, and then we were over 100 submissions, and it was apparent we needed to go to 3 collections. And now we have planned, November is announced and on pre-order. December, the authors are now under contract, and it'll be announced shortly. Pre-order will be in a week or 2. January, we have far more than we can possibly fit in 1 or even 2 collections. So my gut is that we'll be able to accept about half of the submissions that we have now. We are still open for submissions, and I'm happy to say that we're not only just taking like New York Times or USA Today best-selling author credits, but we're working with both indies and traditionals. We have some traditional folks going back to their publisher if they don't already have a clause in their contract, and making sure that they're allowed to do this. And then we're also open through the November 25th for submissions to be considered as part of February's collection. So it's kind of on a rolling basis, but the bottom line is we're just not willing to pull the trigger until we feel like we have quality that really makes sense and complements the others in the collection.
What are you guys basing your acceptance or decline of on your submissions? Is it the quality of the story? Is it, like you said, leaving you wanting to know more? What's getting some people in and keeping some people out?
Well, poor editing is an automatic out. If it's not well edited, we're done. I mean, it needs to be publication ready, and so in some cases we have received submissions that are published, but are not properly edited. So that's out. And really, when I was telling you about scenes that build sexual tension and then also leave me wanting more, I'm telling you about some of the most successful among the scenes that we're getting. What both Catherine and I do is we are rating someone on writing quality. There are some writers that are really lyrical and beautiful but don't bring the heat. There are some that have lots of heat but maybe a more disjointed writing style, and so we're really looking for a combination of both of them, steaminess and really fantastic writing. And I remember when I was reading Rain Miller's excerpt, that is the first excerpt in the November collection, that last line in her excerpt just like knocked the breath out of me. I was just done. I mean, it was so cool. And so that's a good example of just you know, when you read it and you feel your skin tingle, you just know that it needs to be part of the collection. But then we also have a scoring system. We get a bit scientific about it, and then we ask for second opinions when we're looking at kind of the mid-level authors who weren't definite rejections but weren't definite acceptances. We're looking for some additional feedback to just kind of help us make a really fair judgment, and that's useful too.
So do you guys have these organized by, say, subgenre within the box set? Like, are you doing 1 month where there's romantic suspense, love scenes, another month where there's paranormal, or are you just basically taking them and organizing per who, you know, signs up and who you choose first?
You know, I initially thought, oh, we should do a new adult one, and then we should do an adult one, and then we should do a romantic suspense one. But Catherine really thought that no, we should be spreading this differently, and I really credit her and her marketing mind behind that. She selected authors that she felt would complement each other, and then when I went in to her selections, I just kept going, aha, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. I really agreed with her choices in who went with what collection. So the bottom line is that we are choosing the collection and who goes in which collection based on how we think we can best drive sales and drive sales for the authors in that collection. Like, if you love Pepper Winters, you're going to love Aletha Romig. And so that for us was really important to get that crossover author connection, you know, in that collection.
So now, how much work has this meant for you as the editor and founder of this? How much work has this taken away from your writing?
Can you see the bags under my eyes and the fact that I haven't done nano even though I signed up for it? It does take a lot of work. I mean, reading literally more than 100 submissions, that's 500,000 words almost, 300 to 500,000 words. It's a lot to get through. And then on top of that, we're not just reading them, but we're reading them as editors. We want to make sure that our collection is typo-free and that it's properly formatted so it doesn't have any non-showing characters that are going to mess up the formatting down the road. And then there's author communications, there's marketing, there's buying the advertising. So yeah, it's taken away a ton from the writing, but some of my writing buddies will tell you that I am unfortunately bursting with ideas. And so I'll get back to the writing as soon as we've got January's collection put to bed. And that usually, I mean, that's not, I'll get back to my writing in January. That means I'll get back to writing in the next couple of weeks or so.
So as someone that actually writes quite hot yourself, has this kind of opened your eyes to stuff you hadn't thought about going through all these submissions? Is there, is there things that you're taking away from this that is going to influence your own writing?
Oh, definitely. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I don't think I've thought about it enough to put it into really intelligent words yet. I will definitely say that seeing my partner Katie's comments on the different submissions makes me really think through kind of her impressions, and then I write my own comments, and so that back and forth really helps us develop as a partnership and as editors, because in the future Jasper Ridge Press will be publishing single title romance, steamy and erotic romance, and so getting a sense of her taste and has been really helpful. Also, it has given me a sense of the things that I'm seeing over and over and over again. I thought I read them a lot as a reader. Oh no. So like, she cried out. It's right out of my writing vocabulary now, forever and ever, because I've read it at least 36 times. And so stuff like that, the cliche, I think, has probably been the best. It's been the best cliche killer for me. So maybe I might recommend to writers of steamy romance these collections, simply so that you can see if you can spot a cliche, or maybe spot a new way to approach some mechanics in your writing.
So it sounds like you're actually going to be opening your publishing house to other submissions, to actual full-length novels. What are your plans in that department?
We're definitely open to submissions. We're in the process of lining up where we'll be on tour this summer at the different writing conferences. My partner's secured a couple of those already, and we're currently open to submissions, although really our focus has been on these first 4 collections and establishing ourselves as a credible and trustworthy publisher. I think all of us have heard really horrible horror stories, especially from small presses, and I'm seeing, especially in the erotica and romance categories, some of these things are imploding, and we don't want to be those folks. So I feel like we were able to build this collection on our own professional credibility in the author community, and then going forward we would like to build Jasper Ridge Press on the credibility that is afforded to us when we treat the authors in our collections well, when we pay them, and when we give them great transparency and communication. And so that's really what we're working on now, to prove it rather than just say it, to really show that we are a credible source. And then Katie and I have also talked about the kinds of books that we're looking to acquire, and it will be in that kind of steamy and erotics romance category. And I am really excited about one of the authors that we've been chatting with. She got perfect scores from us in both writing and heat when she submitted to our collection, and then when she found out that we were accepting full length, she's considering it. So I'm really excited about that opportunity particularly.
Okay, I'm going to give you back over to Lindsay for the closing questions, but I do have one last question for you now. How long have you been self-publishing? Pretty close to 3 years now?
Not quite 3 years. I'm closer to 2 years. Actually, it'll be my 2-year anniversary here in about a month.
Okay, so what would you say that you've learned about self-publishing in the last 2 years? What do you wish that you had done differently in the start? You know, is there something that if you could go back, you would change what you did?
I definitely, if I could change things, I would have started sooner. I would have realized that I knew less than I thought I knew, because you know, it's like it's weird. The more you know, the more humble you get, if that makes sense. So I will never say that I am the most knowledgeable about marketing or publishing or writing, but I sure thought I was a while ago. And one other thing I would probably change is I would drop kick that worthless piece of chicklet that killed me for years and years because I felt like I had to finish it. I would drop it and walk away and do something new because I had a new idea, and my old idea was keeping me from getting into my new idea. And I've heard this from other authors as well, like Whitney Barbetti, who was incredibly successful with 10 Below Zero. And she said it was a shiny new idea. She dropped her existing manuscript. She went after it. She wrote it really fast. And that's the one that blew up for her. So I think it's valuable to drop ideas and run with them. The Phoenix Candidate, my next book, something that I was 25,000 words into my last book in the Tattoo Thief series. My editor said, drop that puppy and write this Phoenix Candidate right now because it's a great idea. And I'm truly glad that I did. So.
Okay, so I've got one more question for you that's going to be a little bit of a hard one, and I think something we're going to be asking all of our authors that are coming on from now on. But there is so much self-publishing advice that floats around, and there's some advice that a lot of people kind of adhere to that might not necessarily be the best advice. So is there any one particular advice that you hear over and over again from, say, successful self-published authors to newbies that you think's a really bad idea, and if so, why?
Ooh, self-publishing advice that is a bad idea, and if so, why? I can think of a few things that I see, particularly in author rooms, that really disturb me. One is that you don't need an editor, that you could work with a friend who has an English degree, or that you're a spouse or somebody who's really good at looking for typos. You know, honestly, the best money and most money that I've spent on my writing has been on working with a developmental editor. And even though, again, I'm not saying that this is for everybody, I mean, it's always your mileage may vary, but I have learned more about writing craft from my developmental editor than I have from anybody else. And I mean, he skewers me. I told you, I sit down with his dev letters and I cry. I mean, they're hard, but it's so worth it. So I would say that the bad advice I'm seeing right now is either to you know, skip the editor. I tend to tell people, put as much time and money as you want to get out of your writing career. I intend for this to be a career, not a hobby, so I am willing to kick my own butt and invest a lot of time and money into each book, and that's somewhere between $1,500 and $2,000 a book in terms of editing and publication and editing and publicity, and frankly, I think I do that on the cheap. So that's my the other thing is, like, don't give up and keep writing. I see a lot of folks who say, wow, you put out this book, you need to promote. But I would disagree with that, and even though I do think promotion is really valuable, I think that you need to write. That's but again, just my opinion.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to hand you back over to Lindsay. We're coming up on the hour here. I think there's at least a couple or one or two comments on the website.
Hey, Heidi. I think we've only got one comment tonight on the website, and let me ask you, this is from Roland. In my mind, new adult is like sexy TV-style angst and drama, soap opera for young people. What are your media influences, whether it's TV, movies, books, etc.?
Ooh, wow. You know, there's a lot of debate among new adult authors about what is NA and what is not NA. I often will hear people say, oh, well, NA is just sexed up YA, and that's, I think, couldn't be further from the truth. I think that new adult is somewhere maybe in the 18 to 26-ish range, but really I think the key is that it has those themes of, you've launched from the nest and yet you are still building your own nest, your own identity, your own purpose in life. So I guess my cultural influences come from people in that zone. Okay, so I'll tell you my lame thing was I was reading BuzzFeed, which is a great source, and I was reading Taylor Swift's fabulous comments back to her fans, and one of them was FOMO, which I'd heard before, but I forgot what it is, and it's fear of missing out. Another one is BAE, B-A-E, and that's kind of like a twist on baby. But I honestly find via Facebook and BuzzFeed and more or less some TV, but again, I've had to kind of give up TV as a writer. That's kind of where I see my big cultural influences for new adult. And then I'll also say that my new adult characters are not in college. They're all a year or 2 or 3 out of college. So they kind of have a different perspective on life than maybe a true college age would.
All right, well, thank you for answering that. And just want to say, by the way, that I'm super impressed by everything that you're getting done, and it sounds like you're still working full-time. Is that right?
Yeah, I have 2 little kids who are 6.5 and 4, and I have a full-time day job, and I write between 9 p.m. and 1 a.m., and Catherine and I worked to launch our website in the space of 3 days when I flew out to Pennsylvania to visit her. So it's kind of amazing to be able to find that stolen time between 9 and 1, but we find it.
Well, congratulations on everything you've done so far. And one last question for me. It sounded like you're taking submissions still for these, I don't know if you call them anthologies.
Yeah,
Sexy anthologies.
Yeah, we call it a collection. We're taking submissions only through tomorrow on for consideration in the January collection. We're considering all of the submissions, both for January and February, but we'll actually close submissions for the February collection on November 25th.
Okay, and if anybody's interested, where should they go to find out more or check out your books? Yeah,
JasperRidgePress.com, and I tried to put that in my lower third, but it didn't seem to work. So I'll say it again, JasperRidgePress.com, and find me on Facebook, send me a note, say hi. I like that.
Great. Well, thanks so much for coming on tonight and putting up with the slight mild technical difficulties at the beginning.
You ladies are so lovely. Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
All right. Well, I think that's it for us tonight. And everybody, get your sex scene submissions ready. You'll probably get 5,000 more tomorrow, so you shouldn't have asked.
That'll be awesome. More wine, please.
All right. Thanks, and have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
bye.
Heidi. I really appreciate you coming on the show at such short notice as well, and then hanging out with us while we were trying to figure out whether we could even keep it going today or whether we were going to have to cancel. So I appreciate your patience.
Oh, you're so welcome. I appreciate it. Bye, guys.
And until next week, you guys, we'll see you later. All the iTunes shows should be uploaded here shortly. Carl's been hard at work doing that for us, so we owe him a big round of applause and a thank you for taking care of that for us. Anyway, we will see you next week. Bye.
Okay. Bye.